The following program is a presentation of Jez Sports. Hello again everyone and welcome to a look back at this year's Survivor Series pay-per-view, headed by competition between Raw, SmackDown and NXT. There's a lot to go through. It's quite a full-on show, so let's get straight into the action and talk about the first contest on the kickoff. So the first piece of action we saw took place, as I said, on the kickoff show, and that was a tag team battle royal. Now, in my opinion, they just threw this together at the last minute so they could give SmackDown a quick victory. Having worked out who would pick up the wins and losses over the course of the pay-per-view, SmackDown looked a little weak. So SmackDown gets a win in a tag team battle royal that comes out of nowhere. I still don't really like the team of Ziggler and Rude, but I like even less them beating 9 other legitimate tag teams. At least it was a battle royal, though. It wasn't a pinfall victory. But the team of Ziggler and Rude need to end, and they need to end now. The second match was for the NXT Cruiserweight Championship. Now, they went into this match thinking that the victor seemed inevitable. There was no way they were going to take the belt away from NXT after only having put it there a few weeks ago. That's not to say that expectations weren't high for this match, and they didn't disappoint. It was a good little match considering the time that they were given. So with the score tied at 1 each for NXT and SmackDown, I went into the Tag Team Champions Triple Threat match, expecting the War Viking Machine Raider experience to take the W and even all up the score at 1 going into the main show. And that's exactly what happened. Extremely disappointed to say that the Undisputed Era were made to seem like an afterthought in this match. There was no NXT representation on commentary whatsoever. The big head-to-head moments were between the New Day and the War Viking Machine Raider experience. Not really any big moments, including UE. And all the talk throughout the match on commentary was of wanting to see Big E and Ivar go head-to-head. The only brief flurry for the Undisputed Era was a setup for a Viking hot tag. This was nowhere near the match it could have been. It was quite formulaic, and I still wish that the Revival were involved. The main Survivor Series show got underway with the women's traditional, not so traditional Survivor Series match. Lots of people asked me how this format was going to work as a triple threat, to which I answered, yes. Visual overload was the order of business to start this match. Not only were you on the lookout for legal competitors coming back into the ring after being thrown out, but you were trying to keep tabs on who is legal as tags happen on 3 sides. Then there's a dead stop for some fake injury time, which I did not like. And after some more chaos, there were some solid eliminations by Bianca Belair, and then more chaos. It was good to see the Raw team self-destruct. Charlotte's ego got the best of her, and Asuka's devil-may-care attitude threw a hand grenade into the middle of Team Red. But the decision to remove Io Shirai and Candice LeRae, only to reintroduce them when Rhea Ripley had the match completely in hand, is a little strange. I guess they really wanted to push the NXT are cheaters and will go to any lengths to win narrative. Next up was the Dream Match. AJ Styles versus Roderick Strong versus Shinsuke Nakamura. Things started off in this match a lot slower than I would have liked, with the usual triple threat, take turns to play dead shtick taking hold very, very quickly. The main thing that struck me about this match was that there was not a huge amount of wrestling, especially in the first half. Lots of strikes, very little actual wrestling from 3 of the best wrestlers in the world. I did think for a moment that perhaps I was imagining it and that I must have been mistaken. But thanks to the good people at Pro Wrestling Musings, who you can follow at PW Musings on Twitter, they broke down the match in terms of the percentage of strikes and grapples, submissions, finishes, all kinds of stats. Really worth checking them out if you're a stats guy. In the match, there were 155 combined strikes and strike downs between the three competitors, and between them they only executed 75 moves. That includes all finishes, not that Roderick Strong got his finisher in, and it also includes submissions as well. So even being generous about what constitutes a wrestling move, that comes in far, far lower than you would expect for a match of this kind of caliber. It just felt like throughout this match they weren't really given the green light to go full tilt. It was nice to see Roderick Strong pick up the W on a big stage, but overall this was just such a disappointing proposition. On deck next was the NXT Championship match. The wrestling I wanted in the last match was on display early as Pete Dunne went to work on the joints of Adam Cole. Cole's style leans more to a striking-based offense, but in this match it served to make him appear more desperate, trying to keep Pete Dunne off his joints and injured ribs. A move to a more aerial-style offense begins to cost Pete Dunne in the match, as he hits a moonsault outside the ring, but hurts his injured knee. On his second attempt, he got a midsection full of knees for his troubles. A false finish each after each man deliver their finishing maneuvers leads to the match heading outside the ring. It is in this moment especially that Mauro Ranallo's passion was sorely missed on commentary, as Michael Cole casually names a Panama Sunrise on the apron as if it were a suplex. A beautiful pile-drive counter to the bitter end brings the match to climax, and Adam Cole retains the NXT Championship. Overall, this was a nice match in what was the first such meeting between Adam Cole and Pete Dunne. As I mentioned, Mauro Ranallo was sorely missed on commentary. Only he should be calling NXT Championship matches, especially ones with the caliber of competitor that this match contained. Hopefully this won't be the last time that we see Cole and Dunne square off, and that next time we will have a proper NXT commentary team to bolster the match. A few months into Bray Wyatt's rebirth, the entrance of The Fiend still gives me huge goosebumps. I hope that I get to experience that in person one day. The match for the Universal Championship got off to a quick start, with Daniel Bryan striking first in an attempt to take The Fiend off his game. The match quickly descended into what I had predicted on last week's podcast, though, with Daniel Bryan taking a systematic beatdown from The Fiend. As the match evolved, Daniel Bryan was able to get some offense in. That began with an aerial assault. After a nice exchange where the yes kicks were unable to put The Fiend down, Daniel Bryan is locked in the mandible claw on the top turnbuckle. This is countered into an armbar which takes the action back into the ring, where we see some back and forth until once again Daniel Bryan is locked in the mandible claw and fades into unconsciousness for the 1-2-3. Everything about The Fiend is developing nicely, right down to the referee presenting the Universal Championship to The Fiend before scurrying out of the ring in fear. It's the small things that have, and will continue, to make Bray Wyatt the most compelling character in modern WWE history. The start of the men's traditional, not-so-traditional Survivor Series match was a Vinnie Mac wet dream, with lots of competition between WWE's most gigantic competitors. The early elimination of Walter, who had been receiving chants from the Chicago crowd from the beginning, led to bovine fecal matter chants instead. The Ring General deserved better. The continuing feud between Baron Corbin and Roman Reigns took centre stage for the Blue Team, but a SmackDown highlight saw Chad Gable and NXT's Matt Riddle engage one-on-one, highlighting each competitor's mat-based skills. While less frenetic than the women's match, the eliminations were a lot more disappointing. Not that these people shouldn't have been eliminated, but removing Walter and Damian Priest after almost zero offense is an insult to each and their brands. Also, has anyone ever been eliminated by countout before? I do seem to remember it happening, but removing Braun Strowman like that was a bit of a cop-out. Speaking of cop-outs, teaming Reigns and Rollins up in a cross-brand match is a great way to undo the work that you've done to stop people booing Roman Reigns. You might just get Seth Rollins the chorus of boos he clearly wants, too. I'm not mad at the end of the match, despite not being a Roman Reigns guy, because Lee shouldn't be beating him clean at this point in his WWE life. But despite that, Keith Lee showed out and proved he's at Reigns' level. They will meet again. Nobody makes an introduction better than Paul Heyman, but Rey Mysterio set the tone for the WWE Championship by fetching a metal pipe immediately after the bell. It wasn't long until the standard Brock Lesnar match experience took hold, with Lesnar dominating Mysterio, bouncing him off various parts of the ringside area. Dominic's involvement was a nice touch, as were the little Eddie Guerrero tributes, but ultimately, what was the point of this match if we weren't getting our Eddie at No Way Out 2004 moment? As predicted, the belt stays with Lesnar. See you in January, Brock. I love the women's triple threat match being the main event. Some people will argue that the WWE/Universal Championship should always be last, but the Raw, SmackDown and NXT women's belts are world championships in their own right. And despite no gold being on the line, this match, therefore, contains 3 world champions. It should be up last. Triple threat turn-taking gets this match underway with very few moments that include all 3 ladies. After this continues for a while, sections of the crowd start to chant boring, and it's hard to argue. The crowd have seen a good number of triple threats by now, all with this same formula, so fatigue has kicked in of watching the same match over and over again. The match gets a little more interesting as it goes outside the ring, but the crowd are still dead except for a smattering of "We Want Tables" chants. Back in the ring, very little happens until Baszler locks in the Kirifuda clutch and Bayley taps out. For a match that should have been the crowning achievement of women's wrestling, that contained 3 women's world championships, this match failed to deliver on a grand scale. Overall, Survivor Series was fine, I guess. There was nothing really special, and considering a lot of these matches looked like on paper they were going to be Match of the Year candidates, it was just fine. It wasn't a bad pay-per-view, there was lots to be entertained by, but expectations were very, very high and they failed to meet them. It's time now, though, to hear what you think as we delve into the voice of the WWE Universe. This week's question was the obvious. What did you think of Survivor Series? What were your favourite and least favourite moments from the event? On Facebook, James Stevens said, "Not really giving Braun a big lift at the moment. Was disappointed he got counted out. Rhea Ripley was a good moment, stepping up for NXT." No argument there, James. WWE definitely spinning their wheels with Braun Strowman, as they have for quite some time now. On Twitter, Steve at SteveOnOnline said, "I enjoyed the event. A great idea for NXT to win to elevate the brand, as it's new. New viewers can now see what talent they have at NXT thanks to Survivor Series. I hate the red lights during the Fiends matches. I wish the 24/7 title was included somehow on the event." Steve dropping truth. This definitely gives NXT the boost that they need, considering they are competing with a whole other company on Wednesday nights. I personally go back and forth about the red lights during the Fiend matches. Sometimes I hate it, sometimes I think it's exactly what's needed for the Fiend's character. I really haven't made up my mind what I think about it yet. As for the 24/7 title, I think that thing needs to die quickly and never come back again. Thank you both for your responses. We'll be back next week with our regularly scheduled reviews of Raw and SmackDown. So until next time, I've been Jez, and you've been awesome! See you later.